Hello friends, welcome to iQuanta. Here is the solution and discussion of the cat level RC set 2, and the members of iQuanta Facebook group must have already attempted this passage already, but those of you who have not read this passage yet and you are seeing this for the first time on YouTube, you can simply pause the screen and read the passage on your own and then solve the questions as they come along by pausing the screen, and then you watch the solution. But those of you who have already attempted it, they can simply jump to the solution part. For now, let us discuss the passage. So, you have read the passage and you must have realized that the passage is actually about language, that how language comes to human being. So, is it learned or is it something that is inherent property of human existence? So, earlier it was a popular view that it was a cultural artifact, something that we learn as we grow. But no, the author is denying this. He is saying that language is not a cultural artifact that we learn the way we learn to tell the time or how the federal government works. So, these are the things that we learn as we grow. These are the ideas that are related with learning. Then, but the author is denying this. He is saying that it is not a cultural artifact that we learn as we grow. Instead, it is a distinct piece of the biological makeup of our brains. Language is a complex specialized skill which develops in the child spontaneously without conscious effort. So, you do not need to put any conscious effort in order to learn language, or any formal instruction is not required, and this language is actually deployed without any awareness of its underlying logic. So, we do not need to understand the logic behind this, we can simply deploy this naturally. And this language is qualitatively the same in every individual, and it is distinct from more general abilities to process information or behave intelligently. So, when we process information or we behave intelligently, these are the things that we learn over time, like here. So, these are the abilities that we learn with time, like the ability to tell the time. And for these reasons, some cognitive scientists have described language as psychological faculty. So, that is how these cognitive scientists have described this language, that is a mental organ or a neural system and a computational module. But I prefer the admittedly quaint term instinct. So, to which these cognitive scientists call psychological faculty, to the very same thing the author prefers to call instinct, and quaint is like attractive. So, author feels that this term is more attractive than this one, both are same thing. So, they call it this, author calls it this. So, because he feels that this is more charming and attractive, and actually it is. So, because if I say that language is a psychological faculty, most of you will not grasp the idea that what do you mean by psychological faculty. But I simply say that language is instinct, it is basic and inherent quality of human existence, then you simply get the idea what I am trying to say. So, this is obviously more quaint term for the same thing, and it conveys the idea that people know how to talk in more or less the sense that spiders. So, here it is an analogy. So, just the way these spiders have this instinct of spinning webs, in the same way humans know how to use language. So, humans have got language and spiders have got their skill to spin webs, both are analogous, and this is the analogy, this is the comparison that the author has tried to make here. That means spiders, no one has taught these spiders to spin webs, they just know it because they are spiders. In the same way, the author is trying to say that no one has taught human beings to use language, we just know it because we are human beings. So, and here in this passage, second passage, thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom. So, when you call language to be an instinct, you are actually inverting the popular wisdom. That means it has not been the popular thought about language. So, what has been the popular thought about language? That we learn it as we grow. So, this is the popular thought, this is the popular wisdom, that humans learn language as they grow. But no, it is simply an instinct and this is the new view and not so popular yet, and this is the popular wisdom. But when you call this instinct, you are actually countering the popular wisdom, and especially as it has been passed down in the, so this popular wisdom has been passed down in the canon of the humanities and social sciences. Language is no more a cultural invention than is upright posture. It is not a manifestation of general capacity to use symbols. A 3-year-old, we shall see, is a grammatical genius, but is quite incompetent at the visual arts, religious in iconography, traffic science, and the other staples of the semiotics curriculum. Though language is a magnificent ability unique to Homo sapiens among living species, it does not call for sequestering. Sequestering is like isolating or confiscating. So, when you try to isolate something or confiscate something, that situation is referred to as sequestering. So, it does not call for sequestering the study of humans from the domain of biology, for a magnificent ability unique to a particular living species is far from unique in the animal kingdom. That means, you might think that this language thing is unique to human beings, but actually it is not the case. It is far from unique in the animal kingdom. That means, other animals also can communicate in their own way. Some kinds of bats home in on flying insects using Doppler sonar. Some kinds of migratory birds navigate thousands of miles by calibrating the positions of the constellations against the time of day and year. In nature's talent show, we are simply a species of primate with our own act. So, just like the other species, we have got this our own act, a knack for communicating information about who did what to whom by modulating the sound we make when we exhale. So, that is all that we do, and this might be a unique human talent, a unique human act. We can modulate the sound when we exhale. And once you begin to look at language not as the ineffable, ineffable is like something which is indescribable. So, once you begin to look at language not as something indescribable, a sense of human uniqueness, but as a biological adaptation to communicate information. So, language is biological adaptation of communicating information. So, we have got some information and we want to pass on that information, and that is why we just modulate the sounds that we make when we exhale, and it takes a form of language. It is no longer as tempting to see language as an insidious shaper of thought, and we shall see it is not. That means, here this sentence is actually important. The author is trying to say that it is not the language that shapes your thought, but actually it is your thought that shapes the language. You get the thought first, and then you want to give that thought a shape. So, you give it a shape of language, and that becomes a part of your communication. So, your thoughts to you come first, and then you modulate your voice, your sound that you can make while you exhale, and this takes a form of language. The other way of thinking, the popular or wisdom could have been that it is because of language that we are able to think, but the author is saying it, the author agrees with the otherwise. Moreover, seeing language as one of nature's engineering marvels, an organ with that perfection of structure and co-adaptation which justly excites our admiration, in Darwin's words, gives us a new respect for your ordinary job and the much maligned English language, which could be any other language as well. The complexity of language from the scientist's point of view is part of our biological birthright. It is not something that parents teach their children or something that must be elaborated in school. So, this sentence is again important. So, it is not something that parents teach their children or something that must be elaborated in school. So, here the author is reiterating this idea that language is something that actually cannot be taught, it can simply be learned because we already know it. It is our basic instinct. You do not need to teach a spider how to spin a web, You don't need to teach a human being how to use language. They just know it. As Oscar Wilde said, education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. This is again reiterating the same idea, that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. So, whatever is important, you already know it. Whatever is worth knowing, you already know it, because it cannot be taught to you. You just simply know it. So, there was another passage where I explained that there are some things in this world that cannot be taught. So, language is one of those things. It cannot be taught, it is simply learned. So, there are some things which are not taught, but they are learned. Language is one of those. A preschooler's tacit knowledge of grammar is more sophisticated than the thickest style manual or the most state-of-the-art computer language system. And the same applies to all healthy human beings, even the notorious syntax fracturing professional athlete and the inarticulate teenage skateboarder. So, like it is common to all, even in this common complex system and also in this situation, like inarticulate teenage skateboarder. Both have this knowledge of language at the equal kind of level. Finally, since language is the product of a well engineered biological instinct, so here it is again calling it a product of biological instinct. We shall see that it is not the nutty barrel of monkeys that entertainer columnists make it out to be. So, here he might be targeting to those columnists who use tricky language and they think that language could be tricky. But okay, when you make it tricky, you are playing with the words, and that is another thing, that is not the basic system of language. So, this was the content of the passage. So, you can simply summarize this, that language is something that cannot be taught, we already know it, it is inherent and it is biological adaptation of basic instinct. So, this has been reiterated several times in the passage. Now, let us jump to the questions. So, here is question 1. It says that according to the passage, which of the following does not stem from popular wisdom on language? So, we have already understood the popular wisdom on language, that what was the popular wisdom? It was like language is something that we learn as we grow. Language is just like other skills, we can learn language. But the author denies this, he contradicts this by saying that no, language is nothing like that, it is simply basic instinct, part of our existence. So, which one should be chosen as the answer? So, language is a cultural artifact. Yes, it is the popular wisdom, and we are looking for something which does not stem from popular wisdom. So, which of these is not the popular wisdom? That means, which of these is the modern thought or the thought the author has supported. So, this stems from popular wisdom, and language is learned as we grow. Again, this is something that stems from popular wisdom. You have understood the passage, you can simply eliminate these choices. Language is unique to Homo sapiens. Some of you might get confused with this, but the passage has not claimed that the language is, because language is your only way to communicate your thoughts, and the other animal kingdoms have also got this ability to communicate with their members, community members. So, it is not unique to Homo sapiens. The passage has not claimed this, but yes, the language is a psychological faculty, and this has been claimed by whom? So, by these cognitive scientists. These cognitive scientists call this language to be a psychological faculty, to which the author prefers to call instinct. So, yes, this is the modern approach for language, and this does not represent the popular wisdom on language. So, our choice is option D. This is the answer. Let us move to the next question. Which of the following can be used to replace the spiders know how to spin webs analogy as used by the author? So, why the author has used this analogy? So, humans use language in the same way as spiders know how to spin webs. They have not been taught this thing, they already know this thing. So, this is inherent, this is instinct. So, which of these situations represent a basic instinct of an animal? So, a kitten learning to jump over a wall, or bees collecting nectar, or a donkey carrying a load, or a pet clog protecting its owner's property? It should have been dog, I think. A pet dog. A pet dog protecting its owner's property. Now, which one is a basic instinct? So, if you can see and if you have understood the analogy, then obviously the answer is very obvious that bees are not taught how to collect nectar. They simply know this. They are born to do this. They are born to collect the nectar. No one teaches them this art. So, this is something which is inherent. This is something which is instinct of bees. They do not need to be taught. While this kitten learning to jump over a wall requires effort, this requires effort, and whatever requires effort, this is effortless. This one is effortless. You do not need to put in any kind of effort, you do not need to be conscious about it, you simply do it effortlessly. So, this one is the instinct. For this you need to put in some effort, you need to practice it, you need to put in effort, only then you will be able to do this. A donkey is not born to carry loads, we make that donkey carry loads. So, this is something for which the donkey has to put in effort. A pet dog protecting its owner's property, until and unless it is trained to do so, it is highly unlikely that any dog would do this. So, because it has been trained in this way, a lot of effort has been put for this, that is why a dog is doing this kind of thing. So, these are activities that require efforts. This is something that requires no efforts. Bees are simply born to do this. They do this naturally by their instinct. Third question. It says, according to the passage, which of the following is unique to human beings? So, ability to use symbols while communicating with one another. No, symbol has not been highlighted, and we do not necessarily use symbols while communicating with each other. We don't even do this. We don't even need to do this every time. We can communicate without using any kind of symbol. So, this is not something which is unique to human being. Plus, the other animals also do this. Ability to communicate with each other through voice modulation. Has it been highlighted? Yes, I think it was somewhere there in the passage. The passage was talking about the voice modulation. So, it could be the answer. And third one says that ability to communicate information to other members of the species. If you have got keen eyes, you must have observed that the bats, and there were other animals, one was bat and the other was, I think, some migrating birds. So, they too can communicate with the members of their species. So, this means it is not something unique to human beings. So, you should eliminate this, you can eliminate this, and the ability to use sound as means of communication. So, you see that they were using the solar waves, the bats. So, they were already using their sound waves in order to communicate. So, other animals also are using these sound waves in order to communicate with the members of their community. But what they fail to do is to modulate their voice in order to produce a language. So, this is something unique to human beings, that we are able to modulate our voice and make it a language, give it a form of language. So, answer is this option B. This is a unique property of human beings. And this is the final question of this set, that according to the passage, complexity of language cannot be taught by parents or at school to children because, so as we have already discussed, that language is something that cannot be taught, and either by parents or at school, you can't be taught, this can't be taught to you. You simply learn this, you simply know this. And why is this so? Why this cannot be taught? Children instinctively know language. Is it true? It looks to be true. Actually, it is true that language we know by our instinct, and it is biological adaptation of our instinct. So, it looks to be true, but let us analyze other choices. Children learn the language on their own. It also looks to be true because no one teaches them. They learn it on their own. So, this is also like option A. So, option A 1 and 2 are like kind of very same. So they instinctively know this. Yes, this has been claimed in the passage. They learn the language on their own because it cannot be taught. It also looks to be true, but let's analyze other choices. Language is not amenable to teaching. This also looks true. And let's read the last option. It says that children are born with instinct of semiotics. So instinct of semiotics has got nothing to do with the given case, because semiotics is like study of symbols and signs. So study of symbols and signs is semiotics, and it is about language, the language which is produced by your modulation of your voice. So semiotics has got nothing to do with this, even if children are born with this instinct. Though I don't know whether they are born with this instinct or not. Maybe if they are born with this kind of instinct, then maybe they are also born with this kind of instinct, but this thing is not related to the given situation. So I think we can eliminate this one very easily. Now out of 1, 2 and 3, which one should be picked as the answer? So you have read the passage and we have been discussing the passage for a while, and this thing has been reiterated so many times that language is something that cannot be taught, it can only be learned. And this same thing is written in option C. So why this cannot be taught? Because it is not amenable to teaching, and amenable is like not in compliance with teaching, not compatible with teaching. So it is like compatible, or to be in compliance is amenable, or friendly, to be friendly. So to be friendly to teaching. So language is not teaching friendly, and that is why it cannot be taught. It is not teaching friendly, it is only learning friendly. It is not teaching friendly, and that's why it is very difficult to teach VARC. So you see, students very easily get impressed by their quant faculty, quant teachers or LRDI teachers, but it is very difficult to impress students being a VARC faculty, because it is about language, and this is something that actually cannot be taught. So my job is pointless, my existence as a VARC faculty is pointless, because this is something, this section is something. In CAT you have got 3 sections, VARC, quant and LRDI. You can be trained at LRDI, you can be trained at quant, but you cannot be trained at VARC. You can simply learn it by practicing it a lot. So you just have to practice it, keep practicing, things will reveal, things will unfold to themselves automatically. They will come to you just like that, naturally. If I try to put it into you, I will fail miserably, because it is not even possible. It is about language. So this is a kind of skill that you just get it like this. Oh yes, so I am getting it. I am good at language. Why? Because I have been practicing it for a very long time. I have been learning it on my own. No one is teaching this to me. And that's why teaching VARC is very difficult, because it is not teaching friendly. Language is not teaching friendly. It cannot be taught, and that is why it cannot be taught, and that is why it is very difficult. The other choices in comparison to this one are weaker. They are confusing, and the question is tricky. Some of you might have picked this one as well, that it is because the language is instinct, so it cannot be taught. You might have gone with this choice as well. Some of you might have gone with this choice as well, that children learn their language on their own, but both are not that strong, because you are looking for a reason that why it cannot be taught, and this cannot be taught because it cannot be taught, because it is not teaching friendly. So best choice is option C. So that's all for now. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video.